So the story of Morveren goes back at least 400 years, and we know this because in the church in Zennor there is a pew which has got the engraving of the mermaid on it, and that pew is about 400 years old. But the story goes something along the lines of Morveren the mermaid. She's from Pendour Cove, and on the top of the cliffs above Pendour Cove is a church. It's the church of Zennor, and Morveren used to sneak up there and listen to the choir boys singing. And the one night she heard them singing, she snuck up. She was in the back pew, and Matthew glanced over and saw her, instantly fell in love, and followed her back down to the cove after the service, and was never seen again. And apparently if the wind blows the right way and you got the mist rolling in, you can still hear Matthew's cries from below the waves. We grow our wormwood out on the cliffs near Zennor, which just so happens to be where Morveren the mermaid comes from as well. So our wormwood gets a lot of kind of battering from the big storms coming off the Atlantic, have a lot of salt sitting on them all the time, so they're a lot hardier than those alpine plants. And that carries through into our kind of final flavour as well. You're getting kind of a saline kind of finish to the absinthe. Obviously it is very anise forward. We also use seaweed in the absinthe as well, both for colour and for flavour. Okay, the louche, guys. It is the traditional and possibly the easiest way of drinking absinthe. It's essentially absinthe, sugar and ice cold water. As you can see here, we're doing it with an old 1920s absinthe fountain and an absinthe spoon. Cube of sugar on absinthe spoon, and just slowly dripping the ice cold water through that sugar. Once it melts and dissolves, that'll form part of the liquid of the absinthe, and those essential oils from the star anise will kind of start to sit in suspension and form that kind of milky, hazy louche. The design was kind of really done by the boys over at Roots Branding in Durban, South Africa. They're friends of mine that I went to uni with, and they went on to go and get a real job, and I just ended up working in booze really. But they really pushed the boat on this one. The initial idea and the initial design that I had in mind was nowhere near as good as what these guys have done, and used Sarah Mitchell to do the illustration on the back of it with the mermaid itself. And then just, yeah, like I said, push the boat out on it. Next we're going to make a sazerac. It's one of the famous absinthe cocktails, and we're going to use a cider brandy that we make here in the distillery, so there's a little twist on it. And we're doing a half cider brandy, half rye whiskey mix. So first we're going to start chilling our glass down with ice. Then into a stirring jar we add 10 ml of sugar syrup, 3 dashes of aromatic bitters, half cider brandy, which is 25 ml, half rye whiskey. Add ice and stir it down. Get it nice and cold. We don't want to introduce too much oxygen into the liquid. We want a nice silky smooth consistency. A nice low pour. You can rinse the glass out with absinthe beforehand, but what we're going to do is we're going to give it a few sprays with the atomizer, and we'll finish with some lemon peel oil sprayed over the glass. Enjoy Southwest Sazerac. On tasting the absinthe, you'll see it's velvety smooth. It is 66%, so there's a lot of alcohol there. And there is a little bit of alcohol burn, but it's nowhere near what you would expect. The star anise gives it a very much like perceived sweetness to it. The essential oils will give it that kind of smooth, big, round mouthfeel. So we're getting on to the course flavour number 2, one of my favourite ways to enjoy absinthe. 25 ml of lemon juice, 25 ml of triple sec, 25 ml of Lille Blanc, 25 ml of Caspian Cornish dry gin, coastal botanicals, a dash of Morveren Absinthe, ice in your shaker, give it a bit of a shake. And strain into your chilled coupe glass. And garnish with a maraschino cherry. I think a lot of people are scared of absinthe. It's had this kind of blame game propaganda against it for the last like 150 years, 120 years, whatever it is. But there's no real reason to be scared of it. It's a beautiful drink. Get it in you.